Hello, everyone. Welcome to the chat show where we talk about empathy, employment, and innovation every Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Um, Here, our focus is on the promoting employment for everyone. So, employment is the focus area, and how empathy and innovation is playing a role in promoting employment for everyone, inclusive of people with disability, people, neurodivergent talent, and disabled veterans. My guest today is DeLibra Wesley, an experienced leader in the staffing industry with emphasis on diversity and inclusion, employee engagement, talent acquisition, and leadership development. She's passionate believer in the role of special needs education, which plays for meaningful employment for people with disability or all abilities. She has turned this passion into a full-time effort as a CEO of National Recruitment or Recruiting, National Recruiting Consultants. She's also the founder of the professional development and lifestyle blog Goals with DeLibra. DeLibra, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. Happy to be here.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. DeLibra, see if you can share a little bit about your journey. I know you have amazing journey from the years of decades of experience in the staffing industry, and then in recent months and years you have been actively involved with special needs education. Tell us how that whole journey started and where you are today.
Absolutely. So I started out my career in staffing with the Delta Companies, which is a healthcare staffing organization. We staffed basically everything from nurses, anything that's needed in a hospital, physicians, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapy. And so I gained a little bit of knowledge and experience about some of those specialties from my work there. And over the years, I moved up within the organization and was a part of the leadership team. And the last position I held there was COO. Um, in recent years, I have an elementary age son. He's 9 now. But as he was a little boy, he struggled with hearing. He just had a lot of inner ear issues and surgeries and things of that nature. He needed speech therapy for about 3 years, and he also has ADHD. So, as a parent in the public education system, trying to navigate and be a great advocate for my son, it was at times challenging. I didn't always understand what some of the meetings meant or were for. At times, I could see how frustrated the educators may be and overworked. Like more kids need things that they're not able to get to quickly enough. And so when I decided to go out on my own, I love staffing and I love the kiddos. So I kind of paired the two together and um, formed this organization. And we are staffing in special education departments for school districts, primarily in Texas. Our focus right now is Texas. We are working with educational diagnosticians to test the kiddos and see what accommodations they need, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and a new big unfortunate need, but it's huge in our country right now, is school psychologists. So those are our focus, and I'm very passionate about it. And I'm excited about the opportunity to help in this particular niche for staffing and just in the education department of our country.
Is so amazing. That's a perfect combination of staffing to how do we make an impact and in the special needs world where the teachers, as you rightly said, I have personally spent one full year, 9 to noon, half a day every day in the special needs classroom, and let me tell you that was my best experience or time with special needs children in the classroom of my life, and I learned a lot. Just amazing, dedicated staff, and that's what is so powerful. But as you rightly said, they are overloaded. A lot of places where they don't have enough staff, and that staffing is always a huge challenge when we talk about the special needs classroom. So thank you for your great converting your passion into a business. You are truly as a social entrepreneur. I really admire your efforts in this space. So wishing you all the best for this new venture. When did you start
Yeah.
it?
Oh, it's very new.
Very good.
We actually formed the organization in February, but I moved on full time starting in April. So we have hit the ground running. We have over four independent school districts that have signed on to work with us for the upcoming school year. So we're staffing for August coming up. So very excited.
Very great, great. All the best, because this is really where there is a need. And talking about the special needs classroom and special needs education, I was talking to one of someone I met just in recent days, who is working for a large technology company, neurodivergent person, and she said, Nish, the special needs. So I just, this is what I love about what we do in this special needs, or working with experts from the disability and autism and neurodivergent community. So the Nish, the special needs word doesn't make sense. It should be, it's more appropriate additional needs. It's not a special needs. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I actually, but I've never heard that before, but I think that when you really think about it, that's actually pretty awesome. And how cool would it be if we could change the way that we look at it? And I think over years, there has been some progression. We've now settled upon in the schools with special needs. But I do like the idea of saying additional needs because when you think about it, I think that we're all a bit different and we all learn a little differently and we all need an additional accommodation of something of some sort.
Yeah.
So why do we just say, okay, these kids are special? And it almost takes the word special and puts almost a negative connotation to it. It's like they're different
Hmm.
when every child has every child is a little different, every child, and there's nothing wrong with being different. It should be okay to be different. We as society just need to be able to say, okay, what accommodations do you need in order to make this job work or in order to make school work for you? And I call it, I recently from a colleague heard the term othering. We
Hmm.
tend to do that with special need kids. We'll say, okay, they're in their own department. We other, and then we other people that are different, but they're all individually different. So why do we block them together and other them?
Hmm.
You guys are over here, and it's important that you learn how to exist in mainstream society, not mainstream society. How can you accommodate these kids or the adults that need the accommodations? Even in the workforce, though, we don't say special. We don't say,
Hmm.
when you're employing someone, we don't say, oh, this
Yeah.
person has special needs.
Yeah.
We ask, what accommodations do you need in order to do this job? And there's none of the, it's very interesting. I like it a lot. It's something to think about because I never really even put that together that we're actually calling this group special somehow.
Yeah.
But once you're out of education, it's not the same. We just say, so why do we have to differentiate? It's interesting. It's a great thought.
Yeah, no, isn't that amazing? That's just in the workplace. We don't say special needs. We don't. So that's what we
Yeah.
do, right, when we are talking about inclusion. So, but that's great. So now, talking about additional needs education, how do you see the education system is really making society more inclusive? Your thoughts on that?
I don't know if it's so much that the educational systems have done a great job of making things more inclusive. I think the world and society itself is now demanding more.
Yeah.
And so the educational systems, the independent school districts, the charter schools, the private schools, our education system as a whole in the United States has a lot of catch up to do. And so, um, how do we work in a way to make everyone feel, like you said, inclusion matters, instead of having it feel like this group has to do the lion's share of the work to figure out how to exist in our society. How do we roll out the welcome mat? Everyone is welcome. We figure out a way to, I think, um, what I'm passionate about and what I'm starting to see when I have conversations with educators is that they're understanding more, and we're starting to learn that the way we're looking at things and the approach that we're taking to hear. um, I spoke to an educational diagnostician who told me the thing that he liked the least about his job is that sometimes when a teacher brings him a child and says this child needs to be tested, they already have a preconceived notion they can't learn these things. They can't be taught. And so it's very upsetting to him that, teachers will bring biases into it before we even really understand really what the child needs to be and what accommodations they need. Every child can learn. We
Hmm.
can all learn. We just have to look at it in a way that we have to figure out what it takes for that person to learn. Each person is an individual, and you can't just group them together and think, okay, this person, I can't teach them. So that story is heartbreaking to me, and I feel as if our system, we need to really dig in on what unconscious bias is. We need to understand what microaggressions are. The educators need to be fully aware and prepared to handle all walks of life, no matter what. And so there's a lot of work to do, but it's also encouraging to see you speak to educators and they get it. And
Hmm.
they're aware that we have some things to work on, but awareness is that's the first step, but it's a big step.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like as you said, you talk to the educators and they get it. Exact same way we talk to employers, we talk to hiring managers. They know the importance, and the awareness is there. It's a great start. But then, what is the next step? So what you have been doing, or what you have just jump started the process of how do we feed or meet the needs of having more special educators, or additional need, or education educators who can provide and help these individuals in some cases become mainstream, and it's really needed. So that's so amazing thing that you are taking your experience from the staffing world, understand, and your own experience as a parent, combining that and putting together a service model for schools who is really in a need of some great talent and teachers. So that's great. Let's change some gears a little bit here from the special needs, the school or education system, to employment. As you know, our theme of this conversation is empathy, which we all know and appreciate that importance of empathy at workplace or school or in the society. Tell us, please share your thoughts on empathy and employment. How is that, and education?
And I mean, I've come to believe now. Earlier on in my career, I wouldn't have thought this, or it almost felt like to be empathetic, an empathetic leader or boss was a weakness. Um, but I now believe that empathy is a true leader's superpower. Because if you can truly put yourself in someone else's shoes and be an empath and understand how they're feeling, not just with the workplace, but understanding what's going on at home, what's going on in their lives, that's how you really make people feel safe. You make them feel like they matter. And when I say safe, I mean like psychological safety. Sometimes I mean, I've just being in staffing, I've had that feeling where how I really feel or something going on at home, I can't bring that to the office. Um, but you have to be able to dig in and understand, because eventually there's no way for a human to not let what's happening at work sometimes come home. What's happening at home sometimes comes to work. So being an empathetic leader is key. I think in the education system, empathetic teachers catch way more things than someone who's just going through the motions and checking off a box and just getting things done. But if you can really understand and see things, you sometimes kids aren't diagnosed with things too far along. I mean, sometimes, especially in the LGBTQ community, kids aren't caught that they should have had a suicide assessment. I mean, with school psychologists, the work that they're doing, and they're catching like kids before they are so far gone that they commit suicide, but it's not caught enough. But if we were more empathetic and we knew the signs and we knew how to really think about what this person may be going through, it would change. It is, to me, it now I truly believe it's the superpower. And so if you're not a very empathetic leader, I think that's a shortcoming. You should definitely work on it. And
Yeah.
I want to tell you that it can be worked on. I've done some, in business throughout time, you take those personality assessments. And when I was a new leader, my empathy was very low. It was very low. And so I made it a point to work on that and to really understand where people were coming from. And I'd like to think now that I'm a very empathetic leader.
Yeah, see, so you put the I would say, what is the word? You dedicated or like intentional efforts
Yes.
into learning and understanding, and that's great. In fact, I have also experienced, and just share your thoughts on this. What I have seen based on my experience working in the classroom with children and with students, young and older age students, and the teachers. I think empathy plays a very important role when it comes to the teachers and their turnover. As we all know, in the special needs classroom, the turnover rate of teachers, which as an expert now you can share some of those challenges. But if you, because that empathy is really, please share your thoughts. What are your thoughts as a empathetic teacher versus someone who is just going there and checking the box and because they want to get into their
Uh,
career?
Unfortunately, I think most of the educators have, this part isn't unfortunate, but most of the educators, you go into that because you have a heart for it and you really want to make a difference. But we have systematic issues. The system itself, um, and for lack of a better word, just kind of beats the educators down. And to self preserve yourself, you may turn into, I'm just not going to get involved, I'm going to check the box, I'm going to teach for the standardized test that has to be given. And I've dealt with, I have two children. My oldest son, he's out of school now. I've seen both types, like the newer graduate who is just so passionate and excited, and an older educator, or in tenure anyway, that feels like I just got to get through this until I can retire. And that's unfortunate because you either burn people out or they turn into that type of educator, if your system's not really strong. And so I'm talking to educators that feel like, yeah, we don't have the resources we need. There's not enough of us. They keep piling on more of us. We need more funding. Um, and it's really difficult, especially in the special education sector, because You also have to deal with parents who may, so many times, if the kids have emotional or psychological issues, it may be that their home life's not the best.
Hmm.
So then that special educator is dealing with trying to get this child what they need, and parents just may not be on the same page, may not want to hear it, or may not be very existent. Some kids are homeless. I mean, it is definitely a tough job.
It is.
And to stay empathetic and not let it affect you in a way that's negative is just, it's tough. And
Yeah.
so the system we have in place needs to be very supportive, because if someone has a heart to go into that job, we need to do a better job as a country of taking care of them, keeping them mentally sound, making them feel psychologically safe. Because many of them feel like, well, the administration doesn't really care that much about what happens to us. And I'm constantly having to battle parents who aren't hearing what I'm saying. But I tried very hard, and I think all parents should, to partner with the educators. And I would even tell my oldest, hey, I'm listening to the teachers, so don't think that you can't mom and dad us. So you have to be on the same page with the educators, and knowing that they do have your child's best interest at heart, and you have to work together, because there's so much burnout. And the only way we're going to fix the turnover is by really figuring out a way to support them better.
That is so true. And Delibra, let me tell you, I started my journey working on on autism and neurodiversity related work from the classroom. And let me tell you that dedication, and I truly admire the special needs education, the world, like, how dedicated. It's a small for which is a very small success. I have seen staff celebrating the small success which is small for us, but then I was told that they've been working on this skill for last 2 years, and when they see that, literally I have seen tears in their eyes. And that's a dedication. That's where the challenge is in the classroom. And you are absolutely right that burnout is natural, and that empathetic leadership in the classroom, in the system, is so important. And in fact, that's how I started my journey of building innovative solutions through innovative ideas in the specialist classroom. I worked in the classroom where my goal was, as you rightly said, connecting teachers and parents. And you said playing mom and dad role. This is so challenging. That coordination, collaboration is so important. Coordination is so important, but it is challenging. And how do we connect this to stakeholders or entities or individuals, and work in a synchronized holistic way, because both has the same goal of helping the child acquire
Mhm.
those life skills and vocational skills. And it is so important. That's how we worked on the technology called color skate and all that. But moving uh, next area I would like to cover before we get into other part, D and I. Can you share your thoughts on how relevant the diversity and inclusion has become in this challenging time?
Yeah, recently, my blog that I started that you mentioned earlier, Goals
Yep.
with DeLibra, it originally it started around wellness, but last year, with all the social unrest and the murder of George Floyd, it changed into, not change, it still has wellness, but I focused a lot more on diversity, just because it was a good way for me to get some of my thoughts out, and find it kind of therapeutic. But there's lots of information there about diversity and what my personal thoughts and opinions are. But I've recently been thinking that I hear over and over, I want to start a DE&I program at my organization. And I don't like the word program. I feel like it's almost a check the box kind of thing. Like, and I'm worried, which I think being a little worried is a good thing. As long as we all stay a little paranoid about it, we'll keep it in the forefront of our mind and we'll keep doing things like this, talking about empathy and things of that nature. So, not to the point where I think there's a huge problem, but I am worried that a lot of it almost feels kind of bandwagonish, and maybe some organizations are jumping in because they think it's the thing to do, where I really believe that to have real, true inclusion and equity, it's just embedded.
Hmm.
So it shouldn't be a program where you say, okay, we're going to go do this training, check. We're going to take off for MLK Day, check. It needs to be the way everyone thinks, the way the system is set up from beginning to end. It just needs to live in your culture. So if it's not embedded in your culture, then it's just a program. I don't think just a program's gonna be the answer. It's not gonna work.
I agree. I agree. I call this programs initiatives. Sometimes they use initiatives. Initiatives are there just to a small scale, do your best. But how do we transform these initiatives into a strategy when it comes to employment, a business?
Mhm.
It has to be strategy, and that sponsorship at the leadership level is important. And as you rightly said, that's it has to be in the DNA. It should be part of our day-to-day processes and systems and culture of the organization, because that's how we can go beyond just initiatives, DNA.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we're talking about it, we're aware of it. We know we need to work on things as a country, but we haven't quite figured out the how does it live in your DNA. I like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it should be more of a strategy and not just these are some things we're going to check off a list and there you go, diversity's done.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So you have this over 15 years of experience in staffing industry. Um, what kind of innovation? I'm pretty sure you have seen some innovative solutions or ideas or programs or innovation you have seen in this space.
When I hear questions around like what innovation have you seen, it takes me back to the beginning where uh, when I was first nurse staffing, I had a binder with all the nurses' names and their numbers and my pencil, and I'd check off their availability and circles and X's, and that was my CRM.
Yes, right. Oh, wow.
And paychecks were live, and you had to come into the office on Friday to pick up your pay, which I do kind of miss that because you were able to interact with people on a face to face, where now everything's direct deposit. And I mean, now you have daily pay. But I mean, I love the innovation. I love the all the apps that are constantly coming out, and in our industry, you go to conferences and they're talking about your tech stacking and what tools do you need, and there's constant change. But I think it's for the most part been beneficial because I can't imagine staffing the way that I did before. That was so inefficient. And so now with all the changes with technology, chat bots,
Yeah.
you can reach so many people so much faster and impact things a lot, get to the answers a lot faster. And before I had my binder and my phone. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot. And
I
I'm like, wow, that was the original CRM. That was my original ATS right there.
There we go. There we go. So I'm pretty sure as you get more into this special needs education staffing space, I'm pretty sure. What are your thoughts? How so far? What have you seen, and how do you see the future? Before we conclude our today's conversation in the special needs world, 5, 10 years down the road, How do you see it?
I'll talk about a drawing that I posted on our company page one day. And I think I look back at this drawing quite a bit because I think it's a very good picture of where we are, but where we need to be. So
Hmm.
it's a picture of a school and it's a snowy day. The kids are trying to get into the main entrance in the main door to the school, and there is a worker outside, probably someone from the janitorial crew, and he's shoveling the snow off the steps. But to the side, there's a ramp for wheelchair or children with wheelchairs, and so there's one child that's on the wheelchair, and he says, "Excuse me, can you please shovel the ramp for me?" And the worker looks over and says, "Yeah, I'll take care of you after I finish shoveling the stairs for everyone else." Where we need to be in the future and where I think we're headed is we understand that if you shovel the ramp first, then everyone can get up the stairs, everyone can get into the building, versus, well, we're going to take care of the mainstream first and then we'll come over and take care of you last. You have to wait. When if we just shovel the ramp, everyone could go up. So that's where we're heading.
That is
Um,
so beautiful. That's everyone wins, right? Everyone wins, and that's the
that's
kind of
that's equity. Yeah.
equity. Yeah. So, oh my God, that is so amazing. Thank you for concluding today's conversation with such a positive note, and sharing your vision how the society should look like, whether it is in the special needs education world to the employment world. So, thank you again, Delibra, for your time and a great conversation. And thank you, Ginger, for all your translation and making it truly accessible for everyone.
Thank you, guys. Nice to meet you,
Thank
Ginger.
you, and yeah, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I will continue similar conversation on empathy, employment, innovation, same place, same time next week. Till then, stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much. Take care. Thank you, Delibra, and thank you, Ginger. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.